Hello, my name is Sonnet and I love to talk about crochet and amigurumi and books, and in today's video we have another pattern roundup video where I'm going to talk about 13 amigurumi patterns that are sure to please all of the book lovers out there. Now, I love to read. I'm an avid reader. Books have always been a big part of my channel here, and I thought it would be really fun to incorporate that with all of the amigurumi patterns, especially since I've started my book blanket back up. I'm gonna start talking about books again on the channel, so I thought this would be the perfect video to go along with all of the reintroduced book content that I do plan to make. But let me tell you that this amigurumi roundup that I have curated is probably the hardest one I have ever had to do, and that's because I had two main criteria for the patterns that I selected. The first one is they needed to be amigurumi. I love crocheted toys, so as much as I love book covers and Kindle covers and crocheted bookmarks and things, none of that, only toys. And now the second thing about all of these patterns, and the part that made this really hard, was all of these characters and these authors are in the public domain. So yes, no copyrighted characters or copyrighted works are in this video. Some of them it's a little gray, and we'll talk about that when we get there. But let's go ahead and first talk about the free patterns, because who doesn't love a free pattern? So the first pattern is by the designer Lovely Craft. I found this on the Lovely Craft blog, and that is the Anne Shirley doll. This one is super cute. I love Anne of Green Gables. Of course, Anne of Green Gables, written by L.M. Montgomery. And my very first YouTube video I made was all about reading Anne of Green Gables and crocheting an Anne of Green Gables doll. So if you haven't seen that video, it's the very first one I ever put up on this channel back in 2023. And yeah, that will be up there. But I love Anne of Green Gables. I love Anne Shirley, and this one is super duper cute. I love her hat. I love her red braids, and I really like the size of this one. This one looks like it would only take a bit of time to crochet up, and looking through the pattern, it does appear to be relatively simple. There are some color changes, and there does appear to be quite a bit of sewing, so if you're not into sewing, maybe skip on this one, but I would say an advanced beginner should definitely be able to tackle this one. And one thing I love to do when crocheting dolls like this is to actually listen to the audiobook of the books that they're inspired by. So if I were you, I highly recommend you get an audiobook of Anne of Green Gables, get out your crochet hook and your preferred yarn, and crochet you up in Anne Shirley. I think it's a really fun experience, and I think you might enjoy it. Now let's go ahead and get a little spooky for this next pattern. And of course, if I'm talking about books and spooky things, I have to include a Cthulhu pattern. Now this one was a little bit tricky because a lot of H.P. Lovecraft's works are in the public domain, including The Call of Cthulhu, which is when Cthulhu is first introduced. However, there's been a lot of reworkings and a lot of collaborations when it comes to Cthulhu. So some of Cthulhu is not in the public domain, but The Call of Cthulhu is. So here we have a very specific The Call of Cthulhu. Cthulhu, obviously one of the great old ones from all of the wackiness that is the H.P. Lovecraft mythos. Now, I found this pattern on supergurumi.com. I am new to this website. I don't know much about it. Now, the pictures and the patterns do talk about how teeny tiny this pattern is. However, it is crocheted with a 2.5 crochet hook, and it does use a fingering weight yarn. So obviously using thicker yarns is going to give a bigger plushie, but even based off of the size of this plushie with just fingering weight, I don't feel like this one would be too big, therefore shouldn't be too time consuming. Now, one thing I love about this website actually is the pattern has little check boxes. So if you are crocheting from this website, you just click the little checkbox and there you go. It marks that row as done. I think that's so handy. This pattern also has a ton of pictures. So I really feel like this would be a good advanced beginner pattern. It looks like it might be a little bit more intimidating because of the detail, but based off of the picture, what I see from the blog post, I feel like this really walks you through every single step. And if you are relatively new to crochet and amigurumi making, and you are interested in making a Cthulhu, I would say definitely try this one out. It's free and it really does hold your hand while you're going through all of the steps. Now this next set of free patterns, oh my gosh, it is so sweet. And if you're ever able to take a trip to the 100 Acre Wood and live in A.A. Milne's magical world featuring Winnie the Pooh, I really highly recommend you do so. I love all of the Pooh Bear stories. Oh my gosh, they are so sweet. And here we have the classic Pooh Bear amigurumi. This of course is by Stringy Ding Ding. You guys know how much I love a Stringy Ding Ding pattern. They are always featured in my free sections of these videos because they're just so great and they have so many wonderful patterns. So this is a 4-pack bundle actually, and it does include Piglet, Pooh Bear, Eeyore, and Tigger. All of them are free. All of them are the classic characters and all make me so happy. Now, according to the blog post, these are intermediate patterns. Looking at his construction, I don't think he looks too difficult, but there is quite a bit of shaping in his face. So I would definitely make sure you are comfortable with making amigurumi before you dive into these ones. But I don't think they would be terribly difficult, terribly rage-inducing. And again, if you have the opportunity, see if you can find a Winnie the Pooh audiobook and listen to the super sweet stories and the super sweet adventures that these characters go on while you crochet up these darling amigurumi. Next up, we do have one of those characters that is in the public domain, but another version that is definitely not in the public domain. And that, of course, is Alice's Adventures in Wonderland and Alice. So Alice's Adventures in Wonderland by Lewis Carroll is in the public domain. And I feel like although this version does look like it's modeled after the copyrighted movie from the 50s, she is so close to the original character of Alice, we're going with it. I find the illustrations from Alice's Adventures in Wonderland are just so iconic, and I really enjoy the idea of crocheting some of those characters, so of course I did have to include Alice. So looking at Alice here, I would definitely say she might be more of an advanced beginner. I mean, her hair is a little bit more detailed, but if you are a beginner, there is a lot of resources for you to use to crochet up this amigurumi. She also looks like she's a relatively smaller amigurumi, so it's not going to take too much time. And one thing I absolutely love is that this designer does have the YouTube video where she creates the amigurumi here on YouTube. So I will definitely be sure to link that down below. So if you are interested in this one, you can follow along, which is a great resource for beginners. Now this next pattern, I'm kind of pushing it just a little bit, but you'll see where I'm going with it. And that is the Velvet Bunny amigurumi. This is a pattern by Crochet For You, and it's just a simple velvet bunny. But I decided to choose this one because it is a simple velvet bunny, but you could easily pair this one with the Velveteen Rabbit by Marjorie Williams. Now in the book, the Velveteen Rabbit is given as a Christmas present to a small boy. How cute would that be to crochet up a velvet rabbit and then gift it with the Velveteen Rabbit to a child in your life? I think that is so sweet, and I kind of wish I would have thought about that before Christmas time. Now I really like this pattern specifically because the designer talks about how they are just getting started with designing amigurumi patterns, and as someone whose goal in 2025 is to start designing their own patterns, I really kind of connected with that. And so I really wanted to showcase this pattern, and I really wanted to share this with everybody. I'm not sure how old this blog post is, but I hope that Crochet For You is doing an amazing job and is still loving the design process. But looking at this pattern, I do feel like this is a relatively easy amigurumi to make. There is nothing too extreme. There is quite a bit of sewing, it seems, and it might take you a little bit longer to make just because it is on the bigger side. However, you are using that velvet yarn, so that might make things go by a little quicker because it obviously is thicker. But I just absolutely loved this bunny and had to include the Velveteen Rabbit. and we're going to end out the free patterns with another rabbit. This one, he's pretty famous. I would say he's probably the most famous rabbit that I know of, except for perhaps the Easter Bunny. I would say maybe the Easter Bunny takes that title. But lastly, we do have Peter Rabbit, obviously from the iconic Beatrix Potter stories. I love Beatrix Potter. My goodness, is Beatrix Potter so amazing. I recently just saw some of Beatrix Potter's original artwork, and it is mind-blowing just how beautiful and detailed it is. Oh, it's gorgeous. But this is a pattern by Cute Little Crochet, and I just absolutely love this rabbit. He would be great for an upcoming Easter basket or Easter gift. I just love his little satchel and his little vest. Now, looking at this pattern, I would have thought it would be a little bit more on the simple side, but just kind of reading through it, I feel like this is definitely more of an intermediate pattern. There's a lot of different stitch counts and a lot of different stitches kind of thrown here and there, which just takes a little bit more focus. But I absolutely love this one. I love the size. I love his little vest, and anything that has to do with Beatrix Potter is wonderful in my book. Now that's it for all of our free patterns. Let's go ahead and dive into some of our paid patterns. Now the very first paid pattern that I wanted to talk about is a character from probably my all-time favorite book ever. It is a pattern by Cottontail and Whiskers. Now if you're not familiar with Cottontail and Whiskers patterns, they can be a little bit more on the weird, a little bit more on the unique side. And that of course is Frankenstein's Monster. My lord, do I love Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. Like I said, I'm pretty sure it's my favorite book of all time. I've read it, I want to say 3 times in the past 2 years, and every time I reread it, I just fall more and more in love with it. And although this Frankenstein's monster is a lot different than the one depicted in the book, I just love this one because he's really funny, he's really cute, he's really silly, and he has his little monster buddy that he's holding on to, which I think is really sweet. This is listed as an intermediate pattern, and I would definitely agree there's a lot of detail that goes on here. Now, as much as I love to look at and talk about Cottontail and Whiskers patterns, I don't think I've ever crocheted one, so maybe this is the one that I finally get around to. But I absolutely love it. If you are fairly familiar with crochet and amigurumi, definitely try this one out. He'll be perfect for the spooky time season as well. And if you've never had the opportunity to read Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, I do highly recommend it. It really is a gorgeous piece of literature. Now let's keep the theme of spooky and eerie and macabre going, and let's talk about one of my favorite authors, if not my favorite author, and it's no surprise he is on this list, but I had to include Edgar Allan Poe. It's no secret how much I love Edgar Allan Poe. It's where I get my channel name from. We share a birthday, and he is looking very fancy with his birthday hat and his bow tie, don't you think? That is his New Year's celebration outfit, but he actually does wear it throughout January just because our birthday is coming up. But this amigurumi pattern is by Furry Furry Amigurumi. I love his little vest. I love the details of his vest. It does say this is an intermediate pattern, and that makes sense. He does look like he is going to take a little bit more time, a little bit more dedication. I love how he has the bags under his eyes. That is so Poe. I think it is so cute. So I can't wait to make an Edgar Allan Poe doll. I'm surprised I haven't yet. He had to be on there because I just love him so. Now the next pattern, oh my gosh, I love this one. It is designed by one of my favorite amigurumi designers, Carla Matrani or Morphu, and that is Jane Eyre, based off of the book Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte. Oh wow, I love this one. This is also listed as an easy pattern. You guys know how much I love to crochet Carla Matrani's little dolls. All of her literary icons as well. So cute, so wonderful in every single way. I just can't get over how much I love them. And Jane Eyre is no different. So I definitely do recommend Jane Eyre, and definitely check out the Amigurumi by Morphu. Let's go ahead and get into another amigurumi, and this one is just too stinking cute. And it of course is Sherlock Holmes, the most famous detective of all time, created by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. Had to include Sherlock Holmes on this list. Now I found this pattern over on Ravelry, and this is from the designer Anna Carolina Ramalho, but I absolutely love this Sherlock Holmes, and I love the shape of him. I love all of the details, everything from his nose to his cap to his little magnifying glass, his little vest. It is so detailed and so wonderfully designed. This pattern is listed as advanced though, so if you are new to amigurumi making, this one might be a bit of a challenge just because of the shape of him and all of the details. But if you are an experienced amigurumi maker and you love Sherlock Holmes, definitely try this one out. We're going to go ahead and get away from literary characters and authors for just a moment, and we're going to talk about something that is bookish, but cute. And they are these darling little bookworms. Oh my goodness. This is from the pattern designer Puffy Bunny UA, and look at these bookworms. How adorable are these? Looking at this pattern, I don't feel like these little bookworms are going to be terribly difficult, but the pattern designer does state in the description of the pattern that there is no instruction whatsoever on how to do anything. So you do need some knowledge, obviously, of how to do basic crochet things, but I think they are so cute. I love that they have the little books. I love the little apple. I think this would be really cute for a special librarian in your life or for a teacher. And I just love the little glasses. So cute. I want to start adding more glasses to all of my amigurumi. Let's go ahead and get back to the literary greats. And we have another author here, and it's actually another Amour Fou pattern. I know that's 2 in this video, but she just makes so many great patterns of these iconic people. And this one, of course, had to have been William Shakespeare, the extremely famous playwright, the author of so many plays and dramas that we are all required to read. This darling little William Shakespeare is super cute. The pattern does say it is an easy pattern, but looking at William here, there is quite a bit going on with his clothing and, you know, his little jacket and his cape and everything, his little ruffle. So I would say definitely advanced beginner. I have crocheted a lot of Amour Fou's patterns, and they do work up relatively quickly and are relatively simple and straightforward, but this one just seems to have a little bit more detail. But I think he is so cute. I think he is so fun, and who doesn't love a good William Shakespeare play? I have been wanting to reread some of my William Shakespeare stuff, but it just seems a little overwhelming at times, but maybe 2025 is the year that I revisit Macbeth or something else like that. Which leads me to the last of our paid patterns. And again, it is another author because I just had so much fun picking these little authors. And what iconic author bookish amigurumi pattern video would be complete without an Oscar Wilde? Picture of Dorian Gray, another literary classic that I feel like everyone has to read in school, but is great because I do feel like it is extremely powerful. This is a pattern by Keisei Teihei Amigurumis, and I love the shape of him. I love how kind of slender his body is. Just all of the details of this amigurumi are super interesting to me. The designer does state though that this is an advanced pattern, so if you are a beginner, sorry, maybe want to get some more experience before you get into Oscar Wilde. But again, I think this would be a really interesting one to crochet up while you listen to an audiobook. I find when consuming classics, audiobooks really help me to digest the content. A lot of times classics can be a little bit hard and difficult to read, and having that audiobook really does help. So on maybe a really dreary, kind of cozy day, you pop on the audiobook of The Picture of Dorian Gray, you crochet this Oscar Wilde, and ooh, what an atmospheric and moody day that would be. I love that idea. But there we have it. There is all of our bookish public domain authors and works amigurumi pattern roundup. This one was really fun because I am so passionate about books. I do love making these pattern roundup videos. If you have a specific idea for a pattern roundup that you would like to see, please let me know down in the comments. Also, if you made it this far in the video, let me know which one of these amigurumi would you consider crocheting, and of all of these books I talked about, which one intrigues you the most or which one do you love the most? But that's all I have to say about that. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you're staying cozy and happy this January. I love you so much. You are so wonderful, and I will see you all a little later. Bye.